we got some comedy in the house today. Comedy, as a lot of my listeners know, is one of my favorite all-time things to discuss. There's so much fun, and there's a growing comedic industry out here in Las Vegas, as I've been hearing. I'm here with Kelsey Borlan Lee and Robert Lee. They are the creators of the Laugh After Dark series, which is a hit show on Amazon. It's funny because I'd actually watched a few episodes back in 2018, and then once had the opportunity to talk with you guys, I was like, wait, where do I know that name from? And then I looked and I was like, oh my God, small world.
I love it.
They're also the co-owners of Creative Studios LA, which is the production studio behind Laugh After Dark, who has now found their permanent home out here in the lovely Las Vegas. So, Kelsey and Robert, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited about this opportunity. We can make this very easy, and we can start just right off the bat. As I mentioned, 2 seasons on Amazon, a lot of awards that has been brought to the show. But from your bio, I saw that this is a recent show, and just like we're sitting in my little studio apartment, both of you said, "Ooh, I remember these days," because Laugh After Dark also started in an apartment. Tell us a little bit about the story behind Laugh After Dark.
Well, I mean, Laugh After Dark. I guess it started in an apartment. It really started in a loft, a 2-story loft in North Hollywood. It was our creative loft. We lived there as well, but we started CSLA there, which is Creative Studios LA, and drifted into the comedy and scene.
It was kind of like Robert always says the term backed in, like we backed into comedy. My background was all visual communication, branding, design, websites, things like that. And Robert's whole background has been music, touring, production, things like that, writing for television and film. And so when we opened our loft, it was kind of a sidestep for both of us into production. And we were approached with this idea and honestly just fell in love with comedy is really what happened. We think comedians are amazing and we love to get to do it.
Who brought the idea to you? And were you fans of comedy even before the opportunity presented itself?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know.
Comedy?
Hey, there's some boring people out there who aren't fans. Also with just like the ongoing nature of cancel culture, who've been trying to cancel comedians for a long time. It seems like there's a big battle that's happening on stage and even off stage as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, to start off with the first question, there's a production company in LA called Urban Genius, and back then we were still are very, very social. We had dinner parties and cocktail parties, and so they stumbled into our one of our cocktail parties, Urban Genius, and it's owned by Jerron and Ashley, Luke Ashley, who is a comedian.
She was the host of what you saw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was her.
They saw our space, which was a big open, loft, and they said, this place would be perfect to do comedy. We should do a comedy show. And we were like, okay, I think we can get on board with that.
Yeah.
And that's who brought it. So basically, Jerron, who is also does music and films, his wife is the entertainer, and we just kind of
magic was born.
Absolutely.
That's all we can say.
Yeah. So we went to Home Depot and built a stage.
You built it by hand.
We built it by hand.
It was literally filmed in my living room.
Yeah, and boom, Laugh After Dark season 1 was birthed, was born.
Yeah, I feel like I'll never forget the feeling of like looking at the footage after the first night of filming and just looking around and being like, what did we just do? Like,
I have to say from the Amazon series, it does not appear like it's in a loft, which is probably the same as people watching this on YouTube. You can't tell that my bed is literally 3 feet away from the table.
Right.
I mean,
totally.
Movie magic, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. You only show what the,
camera sees.
Yeah.
That's it.
So did you have some intention from throwing the first event to record it and then market it to the TV companies, or I guess now the Amazons and Hulus and Netflixes of the world?
Yeah, it was always meant to be a TV show, but where it would land was always sort of, kind of up in the air. And so being able to be on Amazon was really amazing. Going forward, we actually just signed a distribution deal that's kind of exciting for us with Murphy Media Distribution. Ray Murphy Jr. is a cousin of Eddie Murphy, and he was kind of in charge of the production companies in the 90s.
Yeah, he was a president of Eddie Murphy Productions. So yeah, it's
So
really
we're
cool.
excited.
Yeah,
we just
so
actually
excited.
literally, you're catching us on a good week, because if we had misscheduled it for last week, we might not have made it. We just delivered all 13 episodes on Friday. Or was it Saturday?
Might have been Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, last week was a blur. We were just running, ripping
so
and running
wild.
with getting everything, completed for the series, for the new series.
So this will be series 3.
Yes.
No,
no.
It is Laugh After Dark live in Las Vegas, season 1.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're retiring the old series and just moving it now. This is like the new start or the next iteration.
Yeah, this is
Exactly.
a spinoff, I guess if you would call it this, live in Las Vegas. We moved from the little loft in LA to now a room in a big theater, or a pretty big theater.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Laugh
So
After
we
Dark is
scold our comedians now for calling it season 3. Stop now.
yeah.
And both of you have to have some sort of knowledge of the city because you're hosting the new series at Notoriety, which is here in downtown Las Vegas.
Yes.
And those who just moved to Vegas aren't really familiar with what downtown is and what it's becoming. But now there's this massive trend where comedy and art and these like new creative endeavors are all kind of relocating to the downtown area.
Yeah.
Is there something specific about downtown Las Vegas that attracted you to move season 1 down there?
Okay, well, this is what happened. There's something called the pandemic. No, no. Basically, so we have a podcast series too called Do Tell, with
Which we also launched during the pandemic.
yeah.
Dang,
exactly.
we're all on the same page here.
So with that podcast, we were still going back and forth doing it in LA, and then we decided let's bring it to Vegas. And
We're here now. We
we're
live here. We
Let's-
should connect with the community,
So in that, we found out that one of our comedians that recasted, which was his name is Big Irish J, we had him on the podcast, and that night he was having a show at Notoriety, and he was like, "Man, you guys should come down to Notoriety. This is great, world class theater, blah blah blah." And we're like, "Okay, we'll come
think
check
about
yeah,
it.
think
We're
about it."
tired,
And but I mean that changed everything.
Long story short, we made it. Barely made it. Honestly, the main reason that we made it was because they had pizza there. And I will say they make the best pizza ever. It is such good pizza there.
Yeah, well, we were podcasting all day,
Yeah, we were-
basically. Podcasting and drinking. 'Cause that's what we did. And we needed some food. So we were like, we got
We can make it.
Yeah, well, what else? We went downtown. We went to the Strip, and during that time, everything was like 25% capacity. You couldn't so you needed reservations
You
for
couldn't eat
everything.
anywhere.
So we
But-
text Big Irish J. We were like, "Hey, is there food there? We'll definitely show up if there's food." and he was like, "Yeah, they got pizza." And we said, "Okay, well, let's make it down because we are hungry." So,
And so that night after the show, he introduced us to the owner, Ken, and we literally ended up having a board meeting right then and there. And within a week, I think we had kind of agreed to do something together, and it's kind of evolved from there.
yeah, we initially wanted to, we were at that time really concentrated, and it still is concentrated on the content, on the filming side of what we do for Laugh After Dark, and hadn't really considered opening up a show weekly. We just we needed a place to
film.
film, and that wasn't going to happen in LA. That was
No.
it was locked down there, and
I don't think we should back up a little
Okay,
bit though,
yeah,
because so what you don't know is that our story kind of went that we were literally the week of production when COVID hit. It was we were fully cast. We had red carpet. We had 4 days of production.
we were still season 3.
We were still season 3. We were in LA, and literally it was I think it was
March 19th.
yeah, it was
was the day.
T minus 72 hours before we were rolling cameras, and we had to make the call to pull the plug. So all that to say, we were still looking for a venue. We were looking for a place to film, and Vegas was a possibility, and that's all we were originally thinking. And then
Yeah, we weren't going to get shut down, right, for having X amount of people or whatever.
And yeah,
California
Vegas is
situation.
very friendly for business to small businesses
Yeah.
as well.
Especially during the pandemic, you know. But yeah, that's where we needed a place to film, and so Kim was like, "Well, would you consider, you know, doing it every week?" And we said, "Yeah, I think we could do that." The thing is, we love Laugh After Dark, and we love the comedy community and that whole thing, and so, having said that, we love to be in the production, and we love to see the comedians as much as we can. And so doing the filming, we would try to rush. Like if you notice, season 1 debuted on Amazon, but we were really quick to go into season 2 because we love that energy. We love being in the film. So being able to do it every week, we were like, yeah, I think we love it. Why not?
How long did it take to film the entirety of season 1 in Las Vegas?
2 days.
Really? And you said 13 shows?
No.
Oh wait, the first season?
Of season this
The new season.
Vegas.
Oh, the new season? Oh,
yeah.
no.
Over 6
2 days for one season, though. I have to say that is quite a
So
feat.
sorry, that was season 1. It was
Yeah.
2 days.
Yeah, no. We did over 6 weeks. So we did 3 weeks, and then we took 2 weeks off, and then we did 3 more weeks. So we kind of stretched it out a little bit, which was really fun. It kind of, I think, gave a lot of opportunity for momentum and people to kind of figure out about what was going on and stuff. So it was cool.
Is there a certain genre of comedy that take the stage at Laugh After Dark? Is there something that you prefer, or is Laugh After Dark more just all inclusive of any comedian who wants to take the stage and try to represent themselves and build a brand?
It's evolving. So initially, we've always been and will always be, we always pride ourselves in diversity. And so for us, like that's like a core value. It's like we just believe that the more diverse lineups we can curate, the more we help everybody see each other and hear each other and things like that. So that's really important to us. At the same time, we're learning Vegas, right? So now that we're doing it and having just like that sheer like number of hours under our belt, we're learning what Vegas wants from us. And what Vegas wants from us is a little bit different. They want a little bit more curated, and they like it. You can say it.
Oh, they like it raw.
Vegas likes it dirty,
Crude,
dirty.
rude, and attitude is what I'm saying. Crude, rude, and attitude.
Crude,
That's-
rude, and attitude.
Yeah, they love that. They don't want you to think. They don't want any cerebral comedy, which I mean is hilarious too. So we're really like, for us, having this home and this like foundation here in Vegas, I think is really giving us inspiration to grow. And so it's like we have this core product that we're really proud of and is really going well, and it's crude, rude, and all that, right? But then we have the opportunities to, expand and try new things and do specials and, just curate different kinds of lineups.
I mean,
So-
I think having the live show every week it made that happen. We had to evolve, I guess, if you will. I think if you look, season 1 and 2, we do have like a musical comedian. We do go alt, and we do all of that. And I think we still can do that here in Vegas on the filming dates.
Yeah.
However, the weekly, they want it in your face.
And that's the difference. That's a funny thing. That's always the line we're towing with production, is that there's like, we're literally balancing 2 experiences at the same time. We have to think about how it looks on TV, and we have to make sure that the people there are having a great experience. So we do have to be more catering when we're not filming to the live audience, but it is incredible to see the difference between how things will translate on tape.
Interesting. So what would you say is the main distinction and differences between having to curate a stand-up show for the cameras versus the audience? Is there a different dynamic to that?
It's a lot about audience interaction. So it's really on the comic to have tight content. If a comic relies too much on audience interaction, then you lose some of the magic because, right, like you're not there. And if we don't have the right cameras on the right person at the right time, you literally miss the whole interaction, right? Which is what the energy was in the room. And so I think it's about content. Like a tight comic can balance that. They can interact a little bit with the audience, but really they can deliver their content really well. And it almost doesn't matter what that content is. If they can deliver it well, it's going to look good on camera.
But also, I'll also add to the point that when we do the filming and we realize this, in this new season, is we had a bunch of LA comics because that's where we're from. Yeah, that's where we cast from.
Also, it's right next to Vegas as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So they brought out their fans, and so bringing out their fans from LA is different from the tourist that come here. That's a whole different audience. So I think that's something to consider. I think when we do our casting, when we do our booking.
And when you're booking shows downtown, downtown is generally a local customer base. Not as many tourists travel downtown, or at least kind of off the downtown area outside of Fremont Street. So you have to find different ways to cater to the locals. But that's, as we were discussing right before we started recording, what local goes to the Strip unless it's for like free dinner, free club? But everyone goes downtown to have cheaper drinks, go explore Fremont Street, go down to Fremont East where Commonwealth is, and Disco Pussy, and then even when you go a little bit even more east is where Notoriety is, right?
Yeah,
yeah. It's that big like tan building.
Yeah, it's Neonopolis, so we're literally on Fremont and Las Vegas Boulevard. So it's a pretty fantastic location. We couldn't, in terms of like location, we couldn't
absolutely. And it's kind of interesting, like because Neonopolis they have the Toy Store there, which is as seen on TV. Then they have the
there's nerd bars there.
Nerd bars there, but the other
Meow.
No, but I'm talking about the other
Dick's
place.
Last Resort.
No,
the theater on the top floor.
That's
that's you guys, right?
Well, at the very bottom, they eat you get the
Heart Attack.
Heart Attack Grill, yeah.
Which is also seen on TV. So it's kind of weird that like
the whole building's all like TV show stuff.
That's the thing. Now they're the ones who are like now as seen on TV.
Yeah.
Which is
they should change
cool.
Neonopolis to as seen on TV.
Maybe that's that could happen. I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyways,
it's a great. Neonopolis is really cool. Also, I think Don't Tell Mama is down there too.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in there?
No.
So it's an entertainment theatrics type bar where it's a piano bar, but all of the wait staff, the bartenders, the servers, they're all the singers as well. So they're like, they hire based off of your charismatic skills, your singing skills, and then they teach you how to bartend afterwards. Wow. So these people are like singing, and there's a guy playing piano while they're like making drinks and running around.
That's funny.
Cool.
That reminds me of a place we went to in North Hollywood. You remember the Italian place?
Restaurant.
Yeah.
It's kind of famous. It's like on it's on Ventura and
it's by Universal
Lancashire.
Studios,
Yeah. And it's old and famous, and they'll just break out into song.
Yeah, the bartenders.
If you're not in the mood, it kind of sucks. I'm not gonna lie. We went after a shoot one day, and I was like, "Why the fuck is everyone singing right now?"
Well, yeah, but it's all Italian, Italian arias and stuff that they sing. So it's kind of, it's an experience. You feel like you're in the Godfather or something. It's kind of cool. It's kind of real cool.
I like those experimentations of trying new styles to bring new audience or customers to whatever you're doing. It's really cool. But going back a little bit, and we discussed this briefly in the beginning about the comedic scene out here in Las Vegas. It's generally it's generally filled with like the top talent, right? You have people like Joe Rogan and Dave Chappelle coming out here. You have pretty much anybody who's who in comedy comes out here and performs. But that makes it a little bit tougher for the local scene to succeed and achieve because they're just constantly glanced over for somebody else. Like I had on here, Brady Matthews, who opened up for Dimitri Martin earlier this year, and he was talking about basically how he did do it for free, and it's all for it's just for practice and then to kind of get your name out there. Yeah. Is there how are you guys going to go about bringing on new talent or new comedians to the Laugh After Dark series, even though the pool may not be as effective as some other places like LA or as large?
I think it's really changing right now. And I think that, yes, I mean, the Strip is the Strip, right? The tourists are going to pay the big bucks to see the Bruno Mars and the Dave Chappelles, right? So it does beg that question. But I think you kind of touched on it earlier talking about downtown and how much downtown has changed. How it's a big draw for locals and the arts district, right? And we talked about how Wise Guys just opened up, and that's actually Vegas's first freestanding comedy club that's not attached to a casino or a hotel or anything. Yeah, so it's kind of a big deal. And so I think the pandemic really, really shifted things as kind of like the vibe we've gotten. Like pre-pandemic, there was only a handful of people and there was only one club, LA Comedy Club, that's considered a development club where they actually will allow people some space to grow and move and things like that. think it's also where we're a little bit different. We kind of talk about sometimes that we're kind of in no man's land. We're not a comedy club. We're just a show, right? But we're a show that's different where we bring on a different lineup. So, for us, diversity again, and just having up and coming spotlighting like the incredible talent that is out there that's not the ones you've seen of, because basically comedy is really high low. You're either Dave Chappelle and Joe Rogan, or you're playing for free or $25. You know what I mean? And so for us, like our vision is like we've always kind of discovered that we kind of take this middle ground. Like we're not quite HBO yet, but our passion is our comics. And so I think that it's just going to be really interesting to stay tuned here in Vegas in the next couple of years, because I think everything changed in the pandemic and there's going to be a lot more opportunity.
I would add and say our show is a bit different too. So we have a band. So we run like a late night show, like a Jimmy Fallon and the Roots kind of situation with Charlie Wilson and the Fremont Funk Band, and so there's more of a variety element. And so our stage is a different type of stage. It's a huge stage. It's a theater stage, and there's room to do some real creative stuff. Sometimes we have some of these comedians, they'll freestyle rap or they'll play with the band a little bit, and so people like our customers are getting they're getting an entertainment, a type of stand up that they're not getting anywhere else really here. So. I think that's important. That's how we're able to elevate and push beyond the noise and not just be the regular comedy club. Because I don't think we'd be able to like succeed if we had just a stage and a mic and that's it.
If you just filled in and you're just like a copy pasta of everything else that exists.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And comedy is such like a canned kind of thing. Like it's a formula that, kind of all comedy clubs kind of run the same and do the same kind of thing. So it wasn't like we didn't go into comedy being like, we're going to revolutionize comedy. You know what I mean? Nothing like that. No. For us, we were just trying to do the TV show and, get it done as best as we could. And what it's become is we're like shaking things up a little bit,
Yeah, I mean, I figure
a little differently. And
if we're going to do this, we're going to do this our way. If we're going to do it different, we're going to change it. We're not going to go the standard comedy show route, and we're both so creative. She's the branding guru basically, and my background's all mostly music.
He wrote the theme song.
Yeah, and I work with the band with the musical director Chris Canehead to curate music that is great for the show. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean that's so it's music is a big part of it.
It's such like a
part of this show.
It's such a manifestation, I feel like, of like all the little things that like we both kind of bring and both of our passions and kind of just this coagulation of everything together. And it's really fun. We have a good time.
So with the introduction of music and the comedians are performing on a larger stage, do you think that takes away from some of the traditional like intimacy of a comedy club where you almost feel like the comedian is talking to you directly because it's generally in like a smaller room, the lighting is a little bit darker?
Yes. That's something, to be honest, I struggle with that a little bit myself. Laugh After Dark, we started, like I said, in a very small space, 700 square feet to be exact. And now to be in this like 5,000 square foot building, it's a little bit different, but we have a room to do things that we want to do. And the place, Notoriety or the Robin Leach Lounge is where we're at in Notoriety. It only seats 157, so it's still
intimate.
It's still intimate, but it's just a bigger space. That's it.
When it's full, it feels cozy. You feel that. I mean, and again, I think it kind of speaks to that. Like we're in the middle. Like we kind of are like somewhere in the middle of like, are you headlining at Caesar's Palace or are you at the little tiny spot downtown, or it's something in between. And I think it provides for our audience a very in-between experience too. It's elevated. That's what the comics are telling us, that they want to bring their spouses out, where normally they don't, because it's actually like a fun time. So to us, those are like the highest compliments. Like we're just so happy that we've created something that not only we want to do, but that other people want to participate in. So
what are some of the upcoming shows for Laugh After Dark? I was browsing through your website. I think there was some in January, correct?
Yes. I mean, January, February, March. I mean, we're here.
It's pretty much every Saturday. The only time we're off upcoming is for the holidays. So we're off Christmas Day and New Year's Day. But otherwise, we have a show Saturday night and the next Saturday, and then we'll be back on January 8th.
Is it one show per night or two?
For now.
One for now?
For now.
For now.
Yeah, we're looking at expanding a bit.
We just got on Vegas.com.
Ooh, that's a winner right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So
making the moves and making strategic moves, and I do think more shows and more dates are in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As a group who's came from LA and now you're out here in Vegas, do you feel that the networking side of Vegas is different from LA? Have you had a better experience out here? Do you feel that there's more room to grow because I guess you could just say the borders or the barriers between some of these higher end or high net worth individuals or those who have a lot of power are easier to reach?
I think that in some ways, yes, like to that point that you just made, that it's a small pond, right? Mm-hmm. So, but it's a very visible pond. So it's a really powerful city in a lot of ways. So it's very cool in those ways. I will say that I feel like we miss some of the creative community. Like in LA, everyone's there, like literally just gritting through it. If you're there, you're there for a reason. You're trying to do something, even if you're suffering through or whatever. And so it's kind of like it's a land full of like your people, Whereas here, it has been a much more traditional town, right? Like people kind of grow up and they get a job and then they go to work and they come home. And of course, that's wonderful. Like that's our town now too. But
well, I would say, excuse me, that a lot of the communities, after they do a show, they run to another show here and do that show. In LA, it's that way too, but they're also running to like a film audition, commercial audition.
Yeah.
I think the LA scene, they're
multi-hyphenated.
Exactly.
Well, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, there's plenty full of opportunity out there in the creative world where
absolutely modeling,
modeling.
VO work. You name it.
Everyone's doing everything.
Yeah, Vegas has that too, but I would say more along the lines of instead of after performing and running to a film audition, you're probably running to your nightclub job or or your dealer job, or your little model gig at the club, passing out shots.
Yeah.
Right? And that's that it's easier to accrue money that way, but it cuts off it kind of caps the potential of things that you could do when you're like employed for somebody.
Yeah, totally. That's why you're doing this, right?
Trying, yeah. It took a while. That was unfortunately, and it's weird because in Vegas, only 25% of the population is from Vegas, so It's a very transient town. But I'd say out of those 25%, probably 80% or most of them just end up working on the Strip. Like you said, it's a very just like you check in, you make your money, you go home and check out, and maybe you go out and drink or go to the strip club or whatever. But the entrepreneurial scene is growing, and it's not just the comedy scene as well. We have tech meetups by the city. I do blockchain events. There's like an emerging film industry out here, adult entertainment, all of these different places, and it's all because of the pandemic.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm really excited about. As filmmakers, we're really interested in that and hope to
do as much production as possible.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you have no idea. We have all kind of scripts and stuff we want to do, late night shows. That's why we run it's all a beta test. I think what we're doing is a beta test because I want to do this nightly like a Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon here in Vegas. I want to bring that.
Vegas is the perfect city. We've literally had this vision for years. It's part of why we moved back here was we were like, this is the city for it. Like Vegas is so iconic. Like I said, we love Vegas. Like it's not just words. Like we've always loved here. And it's like the history of it and the glam and, it's like, this is the place to create that hybrid experience of like, let's do TV and a live experience because then you're creating something real, Like I feel like Vegas is kind of built on these sort of like facade-y kind of experiences, and so is Hollywood, right? Mm-hmm. Hollywood can be a huge disappointment when you go on the back lot and you realize they walked into a building that was empty. Like, you're like, I thought this is magical. And what we're doing is we're actually creating something real. It's a real experience and a real TV show, and none of it's fake. And so you're there in that moment, and I think that's special. I think I think especially millennials really crave that kind of,
Like the authenticity.
yeah, the authenticity and the uniqueness of the experience.
I think this is why the creator economy, at least the digital version of it, has been exploding, and why podcasts continually just trend more and more, especially long form, because those who are listening to this show or whatever show, they want to hear the mistakes. They don't want the highly produced, cut up, chopped up, soundbite, clickbaity kind of stuff. It's just not the way that the younger generations are looking for, especially now that most people are living on their phone the majority of the time. You know, I think I saw a stat the other day where it was like the average millennial is spending 4 hours or more on their phone per day, which I was like, man, that's kind of low for what I actually thought it was. Yeah. So to have these like well-crafted and curated experiences that are very authentic, it'll resonate with a lot of those that are trying to find a community to belong to. Because as somebody who's been in crypto and now with podcasting and stuff, I find myself more integrated into internet communities than I do like communities in real life. So we're all searching for those experiences.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're here to disrupt.
My favorite quote is people are the best thing that can happen to anyone. Yeah. And I feel like that's like been kind of that's been our experience here in Vegas, being in comedy, is like, it's the people, it's the connections, it's being here with you. It's meeting the people that run Bungalow Coffee. It's meeting Ken and, you know, getting invited in and creating, like, we're going ice skating tonight with our comics. Like,
that's awesome.
That's so cool. You know, and these are people we literally only maybe knew of, but didn't know a year ago, you know, and it's special. It's really special.
Well, sort of, because, well, this is the weird part, is the
full circle.
The full circle, exactly. DJ Sandhu actually put out an invite to do this, and a great comedian here. I was going back looking at some of the old Laugh After Dark season 2, and he sat front row on that season.
He was there. He was on season 2 more than any of the comics.
And I was like, wow, this is like a crazy full circle moment, you know? Yeah. But we enjoy it. We like developing, like she said, those relationships and not just, we like to be immersed in the community and not just when they're performing with us on stage. We like to do dinners. We like to do, That
relationship's very important. It's very important. Yeah. And then I noticed too that, and you also mentioned that both of you have a podcast as well, started around the same time. That also introduces a new form of intimacy with your comedians, because now you get to sit and record with them and discuss. And there's something magical that happens in a 30-minute, hour-long podcast where it feels like the person you're talking to you've known for a long time, even though realistically it's probably been like a few hours or maybe even a few days beforehand.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what the mission is for. I forget what is the name for you guys' podcast? Specific
it's called
name?
Do Tell.
With
Laugh After Dark.
With Laugh After Dark. Yeah. What is the mission or the goal of the podcast?
I mean, well, the podcast is a storytelling podcast, for one. So it's comedians telling their wildest stories, from their bombs on stage to fights on stage to
getting stabbed on stage
to almost having threesomes. So you name it. and the goal was just, there was really no just community. Really, at the end of the day, it was
production. Honestly, we wanted to like practice production. We're
filmmakers.
Pandemic, you know?
We want to film. That's what I think. We want to film and we want to record, and we weren't able to do season 3, and we needed to turn those cameras on and turn those mics on and use them and keep entertaining.
And if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here doing this now. Like, it was literally that choice that led to this. I don't think it would have happened otherwise. I don't even think we would have connected with Jay, because we knew he was here, but we weren't really friends with him yet. We just had a good rapport, but like, it was starting the podcast that like really started building those relationships, to your point.
A podcast to me, it's like a life hack. It's insane. I realized a few years ago that a lot of these people that I'd like to engage with, whether they're an influencer or somebody of success, you'd message them and the message would get buried in their 100 of DMs, or they just don't have the time. And I didn't really understand it until now I'm in the position today. But then when I'd say, hey, I have a podcast, they would say, do you need 3 hours? Do you need 2 hours? I'm like, oh, what? Like, this is a secret.
Yeah.
And now as it's become more evolved, I see podcasting more as like a form of social investing.
Yeah.
It's a way, just with the way that the internet goes, and obviously both of you are filmmakers, that as much things and interactions that can be captured and then thrown in some sort of way on the internet, it brings more community members, and it feels so much more authentic because you can't hide behind the business or the brand that you exist with today. That those kind of like 90s models, brick and mortar models, do not exist anymore.
No.
And you never know what an hour-long conversation with somebody can bring, or somebody being able to share a story that they hadn't been to, especially with comedians, because the conversations that happen on podcasts do not always translate well to an act on stage, or the things that are said on stage. Maybe they have to mask some of their true ideas or intentions because of things like cancel culture, or somebody being in the crowd who's maybe going to write an article about them saying, the 3 words that they said out of their thousands of words in their act, is kind of like that bite-sized moment. But podcasts just introduce an even playing field for comedians or anybody to just share their story, especially if you're just too small to be canceled, like I say.
Yeah.
What's interesting is this is actually like our first podcast.
It is.
Really?
Yeah.
Woo.
As owners. We've always put our comedians first. We're not, at least me, I'm not meant to, I think, for this to be on stage. There's no desire for me to try to do stand up myself, or this is purely for the culture, for the community. And so I've always been sideline. I've always just been,
Well,
Kyle,
we're producers.
We're producers. Yeah, stay in that lane, and now we're starting to come out of our shell and say we have a story to tell too, right? And but usually it's just putting our host and the comedians up on stage. So this is the first of us being together on a podcast together.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. It's weird at first when you first go on to a podcast. You just don't know the way to talk or to present yourself.
Yeah.
And then after about 10 minutes or 20 minutes, when the nerves are gone, you're like, oh, this is just a normal conversation.
Yeah.
At all. There's nothing to be fearful of. There's so much content out there in the world, and it helps with SEO at the end of the day, which has to happen.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, it's a pain sometimes, but
Absolutely.
It's everything.
It's a pain. It's a cost. It's a everything.
though.
Yeah.
No, but our PR rep was literally like, I never turned down a podcast. She's like, podcasts are the best thing you can do because they live on forever and people love them. Mm-hmm. So,
and I've gotten to this point now where I have people that come into town. And I've begun noticing this, is that when people begin to, or come to Vegas, they look for podcasts to go on to kind of share their story. I had some gentleman on who hosted like Boutique Week out here 2 weeks ago, and they did like 4 or 5 podcasts while they're in town.
Wow.
And
Nice.
podcasts are generally becoming the modern day media companies.
yeah.
And so many people don't watch CNN or Fox or these other mainstream media companies, which I don't. I know most people don't.
God.
Yeah, it's a pain. But here is where you could find more authenticity and just understand who it is across from, or the person who's sitting across from you, or the person who's behind the brand or the creation. Especially with or somebody who's running a comedy show. Comedy is all about storytelling, which is generally like the oldest form of, or it's like one of the oldest methods of conversation and communication, right? Humanity was kind of founded on like mythology, which is just another, and religion, which are just 2 forms of storytelling.
Yeah.
Which some people
Totally.
might get mad at me saying that, but sorry.
It's just facts.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, and because we were discussing this a little bit, and we've kind of touched on it for a little bit about cancel culture and comedy.
After what you just said.
Yeah, right. Boom. I haven't been canceled yet. There's only been 2 podcasts actually that people got mad at me for doing, but at the end of the day, I don't really care. What is this a concern as producers of a comedy show? Does the idea of cancel culture in acts ever become a focal point or a topic of conversation between you and the comedians, or the comedians to comedians?
I think it's more of an internal conversation, like for us realizing that like, okay, like censoring comedians was never an option to us. It was never something that was like on the table. It was just, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm even uncomfortable. Some of the things my comics say sometimes. I'm like, oof, oof. But at the same time, like, it's not my place to tell them not to say it. Like, that's their lived experience.
Well, they did their job, right? If they struck a chord with you, good or bad, that's what comedy is about, right? That's what they get on stage so you can feel something, not so you.
Not necessarily just to feel good, right?
Exactly.
Like, because a lot of people are up there processing trauma. You know, they're up there experience, you know, just sharing their experience, and their experience might not be pretty, right? But how many of our experiences are pretty? Like, I think part of the danger of cancel culture in this moment is that we are kind of having the social unraveling, right? We are starting to question a lot of these things that were always just there, and we're starting to reposition our paradigm so we can see other people's pain in a way that we weren't able to before. So why are we trying to shut that down? You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of the people that lead the charge on cancel culture will tend to come from probably a very good place, right? They come from maybe their own pain, or they come from wanting things to be fair, right? But I think that the truest fairness is being able to listen and being able to disagree respectfully. And I think that's really where we need to go next, right? Like, yes, we're having this unraveling. Yes, you have to have these conversations, but that means we also have to take these next steps. And next steps means we have to listen. We have to listen. We have to stop judging. We have to be willing to hear. We have to listen with the intention of hearing and not just with speaking. And so for us, it's like, look, we hold space for everyone. We're not going to stop, right wing Joe, and we're not going to stop left wing Chris. Like, it's just
hippie Sally.
and they, them, Jonna, like, who knows?
Hey, but at the end of the day, we have a little bit of all that in us, right? We have a little bit of that hippie, we got a little bit of that right, and a little bit of the left, a little bit of that whatever, upside down.
Yeah.
Everybody's a little something, right? So like, it's comedy. We're supposed to laugh about these things. We're supposed to laugh and not hurt. To be real, like, what would you rather? Would you rather hate crimes, or would you rather to laugh about it? To be real.
It's a release. It's cathartic.
Absolutely. And no, I mean, I don't think like Dave Chappelle is trans wthink
Yeah.
I don't think that, same thing with Kevin Hart and how they tried. I don't think that person's racist.
Even if they are, it's also like, look, does that mean they have to stop existing? Mm-hmm. No. Like, are you going to convince anyone of anything by calling them wrong and shaming them? No. If you really, really want to change someone's perspective, you can't force them into yours. You have to be willing to go through the journey and listen. That's the first step. And so I don't think that cancel culture, frankly, has any place in comedy. And I think that, we're on the chopping block probably to get canceled ourselves because of this. So for us, we kind of have to come out swinging against cancel culture because we're holding space as our intention.
And people seem to forget too. And this is one thing, like it's such hypocrisy in it. Why is this person more canceled than that person? And it's just all weird to me, Like,
very subjective.
One of the distorted ideologies of it that I never understood either is that if you're canceling somebody based off of something they said 10 years ago, you're basically inferring that they're not going to change, or that that person is the same person that existed that many years ago, which we all know everyone changes. There's not many people, I think, that become or that are the same person throughout their entire life.
And we all have skeletons that we regrets. All of us.
Yeah. I mean, but again, now that social media is out and everybody has their phone out,
Watch your ass.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the fact that they pulled out that tweet from like 11 years old, I mean, that for Kevin Hart was just like, whoa, that was.
Yeah,
and where do you draw the line?
It seems too that, like, when it comes to cancel culture and comedians, I'll just call them the mob, quote unquote, the mob. They try to come after what they're saying live on stage that day, and generally they'll put out an article or something like that, or get the internet fired up on Twitter about what's said, but it never seems to prevail. But the only way for them to then actually like stick it to the comedian is they go back into their history through the previous Facebook posts or previous Twitter posts or whatever it is. And then that's what they kind of use to be like, aha, I got you. But it's never what the comedian's actually saying, but they try. And I think this is why comedians have become kind of like the global conscious of the world, because they're really the only people right now who can pretty much just say it how it is, because politicians used to be able to say that, but now it just doesn't happen anymore.
Well, if to be real, I mean, I was just thinking to myself right now, it's like, well, if there's anybody to cancel, why don't we cancel all the politicians?
They are liars.
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them.
They've all...
And somehow we're still like, oh no, it's okay. We should still be listening to them. But like by all means, like let's just keep letting them divide us. Like, all right, I'll get really real for a second. Uh-oh. All right, here's the thing with politics. Everyone needs to listen to this. Politics is meant to divide. It is, in its nature, divisive. It is a false dichotomy. It is right versus left, right versus wrong, us versus them. And so literally by participating, we got really into politics for a while, because I thought that was the way. I'm like, oh, well, if you know enough about politics, then you can affect real change. And it's not true. We've known, I think theoretically, but the reality is like, you have to rise above that. You have to say like, why are we having these conversations and not these conversations? Why are they only talking about things that divide us and forcing us to pick a side? And so to me, it's like, that's why comedy. Let's laugh, let's come together, let's find our common ground, and let's learn how to have these conversations.
Yeah. And let's not forget too, like, knowledge is power, right? So when they cancel, InfoWars or any of that stuff, there's still an underground, right? He's still getting that message out, whatever that message is. But now we don't know what that message is.
Now you're driving it underground.
And the underground generally becomes more powerful, and that's when it generally becomes more of an issue.
Exactly.
Yeah, because again, if you shut people down, tell them not to talk, you're not making it go away. You're making yourself comfortable, and you're making yourself feel more powerful.
One of my favorite older comedians who he was kind of on the forefront of everything that's happening is Bill Hicks.
Okay, yeah.
His comedy style was a little dry, but he talked about things in society that no one had realized, and this was back in the 80s and I think late 70s and early 90s before he unfortunately passed away. Talking about how politics run the world and kind of the sociology and human psychology. And he tied it into comedy, but he kind of like Joe Rogan says that Bill Hicks inspired him. And there's a lot of people. And now you see a lot of woke comedians of both sides, the woke comedians who kind of just speak out of frustration and rage. And then the other woke comedians who just notice things and trends in society that maybe are considered racist, but they're actually just stereotypes, and they talk about them publicly, which I never really saw anything wrong with
cultural
that.
Cultural differences, right?
Cultural differences, and as for some people, I know they want everything to be equal and treated equal, but that's just not how society really
realistic.
is.
Humans aren't the same.
Yeah, human nature comes down to essentially finding your tribe, the people or the community. We call it community now. Find the community that resonates with you, whether it's a in-person community like the comedy scene in Vegas, or whether it's the crypto community on the internet, or some sort of artistic community that's a hybrid of both. We're all just trying to find those communities that we want to vibe with. And I think comedians do a really good job at distinguishing what the specific traits and persona is of every community. And for some people, they don't really like that being publicly told or portrayed. I'm unsure why, but it's kind of just like, they're almost like facts. It's just how culture is.
You just have to have a thick skin. Like, I mean, we have a 10-year-old, and we literally, like, he's an only child. So we have to tell him on a regular, like, you got to be able to take a joke. Even when people are being mean, you sometimes have to just let it go, because it's worth fighting about, and it's just, I don't think it is. I mean, I don't think any society is in a good place if we can't laugh at it. If we can't laugh at each other and laugh at ourselves, that's not a good place to be. That sounds very tight.
I mean, we're in the business of, also filmmaking, but also entertainment. So it's all entertaining to me. When you say you don't watch Fox or Or CNN is like, well, I do. I like soap operas. I like dramas.
He watches everything.
I watch it. I want to know what's happening. I want to know how this person and that person's thinking. Don't cancel those. Don't cancel the white supremacist channels. I want to see. I want to know what's happening. I want to be in on the meeting too. So I know I know how to wash my ass. So that's why canceling is just stupid to me.
I think it's just another form. Honestly, the problem, I think the biggest core problem with it is that it's doing to others what you're demanding that they not do to you. You are saying you must behave this way, which means you must conform, right? Isn't your rage about this coming from a place of people forcing you to fit into some kind of box, some kind of mold, and now you're demanding that other people bend over backwards in order for you to feel like it's the same thing. It's just the opposite kind of oppression. It's like, and I guess the pendulum swings, right? But it's literally just swinging from one side to the other. And it's like, wait, can we interrupt that a little bit? Can we try and find some equilibrium and just some respect, for other people? I mean, that is to me the most core value of being an American is respect for the individual. And if we can't respect each other's voices and respect each other's autonomy on some level, And
you know what ends up being quite ironic though is the people who end up being the uncancelable ones are generally the comedians because the community that just kind of fortifies and backs them. Like how many times have they tried to cancel Kevin Hart and Joe Rogan and Dave Chappelle? Dave Chappelle talks about it literally every stand-up Netflix, every Netflix stand-up show special that he puts out. He talks about how the LGBTQ community tries to cancel him every time, and then he says that the overall community tries to cancel him, but even the trans people come up and say like, I think it's pretty funny actually that you're pointing some of these things out and that we know it's a joke. And a lot of the more powerful people in the world that I've begun to notice is comedians who have podcasts because they introduce an idea in their act, and then they go on their show and they can then discuss about it in detail without having to be censored because they know if they go to some of the legacy media companies, they're only going to give them 3 minutes and they're going to find that little soundbite that makes it complete opposite of what they're actually trying to say.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it's all entertainment. Like, they're doing it for entertainment. They're doing it for the ads. They're doing it for all that stuff. It only exists for the ads. It's all for the ads.
It's capitalism at the end of the day. It's monetizing people.
None of this exists if it wasn't for those ads. And I learned that in school. I went to music school, and he was like, the radio, music is only there because commercials. Mm-hmm. That's it. They pay for it. And if there's no commercials, there's no music.
It's true. Yeah, especially.
So they need to stir up that controversy. They need to stir up something so people can watch and then turn that ad on and then brainwash or do whatever they're going to do. So
So here, before we come to the close, tell us a little bit on what are the future plans of Laugh After Dark. Are there any ideas or things that you would like to introduce to the city or to your own brand that you could forecast for 2022? At least that you could say without.
Are you kidding? I could talk. We could talk because it's all out. So like
not
biggest,
all of it's out,
not all of it.
I see both. For those that are listening, as I'm saying, Kelsey and Robert are just smirking, looking at each other. So I know there's probably a lot going on.
The biggest thing, and I'll just say this, I'll let Kelsey, pick it up, but we're launching a comedy festival, Laugh After Dark Comedy Fest, October 3 through 5, 2022. It's going to be huge. I did say I would let you, but I'm going to keep talking. It's going to be huge because what we have done is not only just going to be like stand-up competition. We're going to be filming 30-minute specials. So we're going to be selecting those comics. It's just comedy all day. Also, we're going to be incorporating a film festival in there too. So I'm really, really excited about that, to be able to see the filmmakers showcase their work and so forth. So it's going to be a huge festival for us, 3 days.
Well, and like we were talking about before, a lot of our creative community is very multi-hyphenated, right? So a lot of our comics produce content. And so, and I think we're the only competition who's going to be including stand-up specials, because a lot of comics also do their own specials.
Hey, we've gotten laurels for our work, right? We've gotten, so it's time to give back.
Yeah.
It's time to give. It's not just all about us. If you shot your own independent comedy special, we want to give you your flowers too. So
Yeah, we're gonna have a huge awards ceremony. We're gonna have major headliners. It's gonna be huge. Like, we're really excited. I'm actually really excited. One of the things I'm most excited about with it is to engage the Vegas community. I feel like, like the foodie scene here is incredible. Like, the
huge.
food is
It's massive.
amazing here, right? And I want to make sure we expose people to that. So like, my goal is to connect with all of like the major restaurants in downtown and have them all participate. And
so
like,
if you're listening, restaurants.
Yeah, you guys got to
Yeah.
talk to Jolene at Vegas Test Kitchen.
Oh,
Which is
I've
right
heard
down the
great
street.
things about that.
She's highly connected food entrepreneur out here. So she has like 7 or 8 chefs in her own kitchen.
amazing.
it.
Yeah, let's do it for sure.
We do every Sunday. We actually come together and we break bread.
We call it family dinner.
Family dinner. Yeah, exactly. And so we cook these elaborate meals and we just commune.
Yeah.
Is Comedy Fest going to be held at Notoriety, or do you have a different
Yeah.
location?
Well, so Notoriety, the cool thing, I don't know if you said, like, it's an old movie theater. So there's like 8 theaters in there, and they're all beautiful. They're in great shape. And so we're going to be really maximizing. So right now we're maximizing every single room that's currently running at Notoriety.
So film screenings.
But we're
and
going to be
stand up at the same
expanding.
time, and
Yeah.
it's going to be like a
Crazy amount of
Comic-Con type of
entertainment.
situation, probably, just
Yeah.
mayhem with comedy, with laughter.
And the beauty about Notoriety is that there's so much room to expand. So we can sell, 500 tickets and be great, or we can sell 1,000 tickets and we can keep expanding.
Open up another room for more comedy, so it's going to be huge.
We'll just speak it into existence. We want it to be the biggest comedy festival in the States.
Boom.
We're coming for you, JFL.
Boom.
well, they're in
I love
Canada,
that.
but
I will.
it's all good.
I will definitely be there.
Yeah, but, I guess all of North America.
Are
world.
you aware of any other comedy festivals in Vegas? Do these exist? Or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, World
Yeah, there's
Series of
some great
Comedy,
ones.
comedy. I mean, we know a couple of those guys, and
Yeah, there's
I
a
mean,
couple
several.
things that
Yeah.
happen here.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is, I think it's what's cool. What we think is cool is the film combined. Really, it's just maximizing what comics are actually doing. They are doing more than just stand up.
They want to be actors. They want to be, they, I mean, I don't want to speak for all, but what I see out there is they're going out and auditioning and
They write
doing
scripts,
that. They write
they
scripts. yeah.
audition, they
So
create
to bring that
content.
together, to bring the comedy filmmakers together and directors, and so they can meet the new potential, talents and stuff.
Yeah.
It's
And we're gonna have
be huge.
dope industry. Like, to me, what makes a festival is having great industry there, so that they can get exposure and they can get feedback and things like that. So we're bringing out our people from Netflix. We're bringing out our people that work with, just so many like platforms and experiences and things like that will be represented. Like, it's a great opportunity. So
Yeah, our
that's the
panels
thing
are
we're
gonna
probably
be great.
most excited about with 2022. But we're doing our first pop-up. Actually, technically it's still 2021. We're doing our first pop-up in St. George, December 27th.
Yeah, through the 30th.
Yep. So that'll be really cool with Electric Comedy Festival. And we're working on some other pop-ups in like San Diego and LA and things like that. And then ultimately, we want to lead up to start touring. And there's just so much. Like, we have got scripts, we've got Bibles, we've got all kinds of, ideas.
Outside of stand up. But for us, I think the festival is, to me, is going to be it's the thing that we're really working towards to make that the best.
Opportunity. For
I'm
the
excited.
comics.
I can see in both of your faces how excited you are for something that's literally 10 months away still. So
yeah.
I could tell. You
And
put a
they're
lot of work
excited
into
too.
it.
We
'cause
already have 110 plus people who've submitted, which
Oh,
is
wow.
We
great.
already have films that are already submitted, and like she said, over 100 now of stand up tapes we have to watch. So I think it's pretty safe to say the community's watching and excited as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have to have you come out.
Oh, I will
We have to
100%
come
be
out to
there.
a show, man.
Yeah,
Please,
for sure.
yes,
I mean,
please.
If you're around the next couple of weeks.
Oh, I'm around. Yeah, I'm gonna be in town for at least probably a month.
Nice.
We'll send you that.
Yeah,
that
please.
invite.
Yeah, please. I'm in there. Also, I realized as we were talking, I had been to Notoriety once. I had a guest on, Vinny Grosso, who performs
yeah,
there.
we love
Yeah,
Vinny.
I had Vinny. He was episode 100. So
Yeah.
I totally forgot that, and I was like, wait, been there sometime.
Vinny's the homie.
Yeah. He's also like a pseudo comedian too, and his performance he has some one-liners in there that are pretty funny. So Vinny, if you're listening, shout out to you.
Yeah, absolutely, fam.
I always ask the same question to all my guests on the way out. So we'll start with Kelsey first. What does Las Vegas mean to you?
Honestly, it means home. It's cheesy. I'm sorry, but like I said, we lived here before, and during the time that we were not living here, we came back and visited a bunch of times. And one of the times we were here for Thanksgiving, and we drove back through our old neighborhood, and it still felt like home. And that's why, like, when we thought about coming back here, it was like a no-brainer, because it was just like, this is I don't know why, of all weird places, and Vegas is a weird place, but like, it feels comforting to me to be here. And I love the big open roads, and I love the mountains, and I love that you can drive 45 minutes to Mount Charleston and be in the snow, and then you have Red Rock, and it's just
now we have St. George. We discovered that, that's like 2 hours
It's like
away
2 hours,
It's just nothing.
Yeah, it's a home.
Kind of mad though. You stole my answer, yo. You stole it.
Would you like to add on it?
I mean, no.
You said retweet.
Retweet. No, but I will add another word. So she said home. I'll say peace, because I think we've been at least I've been at peace being here. It's different. LA, I love Los Angeles, but it's pretty chaotic.
You're on the grind there.
Yeah, you're on the grind. And here, even though the strip is chaotic, outside of that strip it's not, and that's where that's our valley. Like the LA, you go to the valley to get away from the riffraff that where we are outside of outside of the strip. That's the piece.
Because we don't come to Vegas to gamble. We come to win.
Boom. Ooh, I like that. We could end it there. Where do I send all the listeners and those who are watching on YouTube to follow each of you on social media, learn more about the film festival, Laugh After Dark, etc.?
Everything laughafterdark.com. You can find all of the links for social. You can find
at
the
Laugh
festival.
After Dark.
Yep.
At Laugh After Dark.
Yeah.
www.laughafterdark. The festival is www.laughafterdarkcomedyfest.com.
But again, that's also on our website, so you can get to it from laughafterdark.com.
Excited.
Yeah.
Thank both of you for coming on. I'm glad that I can introduce you to the world of podcasting as a guest for the first time. So that's fun. I'll definitely going to sign up for the film festival and hopefully come to a show here soon. Need some things to do down in December and January when the city of Vegas is a little bit slower, and getting some laughs. Getting some laughs after dark, since it gets dark at 5:00. It's something
a lot easier now.
Yeah, it's a lot easier and more formal for the name. So thank you for sharing your time with us. And thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next time.